Are you going to go to university? Are you going to meet a partner? Are you going to get married? Are you going to buy a house? Are you going to have children? Done all that. Then what? They literally came in with the trolley, grabbed them all, and then wrapped the whole trolley in Glad wrap.
Right.
I mean, a huge, big, tall trolley with 5 different tiers on there. And what happens when you've taken all day to get in there,
Yes.
what happens to get out is everything gets thrown. They would then still had this plastic that they had to deal with. They have no choice but to put it in landfill. I was like, there has to be a better way than this. It started with the 5K. What can we do within our 5K that we can legally go and, pick things up or have delivered? And, a lot of it was down the road from my house. So I put it out, people would be like, sold 2 pieces, sold 6 pieces, sold whatever. So they were buying things and dropping them off at friends, and it's a really community-focused time. We ended up having over 50 suppliers from the inner west that were producing food and beverage options. So what happens is we teach the kids the lesson, and then they take it home and teach their parents.
Oh, nice.
So we teach up. The education is up. Hi, I'm Emma MacGregor, and this is a Good People podcast.
It's a tip of the cap, it's a pat on the back, it's a smile from ear to ear. They're the good people from round here.
Welcome to another episode of the Good People podcast, brought to you by In Other Good News. My name is Andy. I'm sitting here in the In Other Good News podcast studio with a very special guest today, someone who I've actually known for a little while now, another one of my many COVID friends. She is on a mission to build sustainability into the everyday. She has a couple of different roles and hats that she wears, and she's going to come and tell us all about it today. Her name is Emma MacGregor from Positive Feeds. Emma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Andy.
It's a pleasure to have you on here. Like I say, we met in COVID, and you were doing, something quite different to what you're doing now. I think our first interaction was you sent us a story of, it was a cooking class to put onto our In Other Good News show.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cooking class is a loose description. I'd say what happened at that time. It was a matter of me just baking at home.
Baking stuff.
Yeah, baking stuff. So
now my memory tells me it was some sort of brownie, but you seem to think it was a cinnamon scroll, which you were famous for at the time.
Yeah. They were, what were they? No rise, no yeast-free cinnamon scrolls, which meant I could bake them and pop them out pretty quickly when people ordered. Right. So, but yes, I did make the brownie also, which was extremely popular. It had each one that I made had half a kilo of sugar in them. So
that's why it was popular.
Yeah. For some reason, it seemed like people were addicted to them. So, which was probably quite true.
Great for business.
Yep.
Bad for health.
Yeah.
So it's true. You were baking a lot at those times, and we're going to cover why, and when we get to there in a little bit. But you had an initiative which was focused around bakers, which is pretty fun. And again, why we met. But we've met on multiple levels now. We work together on an extent. I supply you with some things for your Positive Feeds hampers. So in those hampers is In Other Good News coffee sometimes. And it's a great initiative, and I want to get to talking about what that does as a whole. Why don't we talk about that now? What does Positive Feeds do? And then we'll talk about how you got there.
Sure. Positive Feeds is a corporate gifting service that is sustainably packaged, that focuses on small business, so small batch producers and social enterprise. So we package, as I said, as sustainably as possible, but we push hampers. We were trying to make a change to the hamper industry during COVID to produce something that was delicious, that supported local business and made people feel good. So our purpose was every time they went to the cupboard, so it was actual product rather than sample product. It was full-size produce that was in sustainable packaging as much as possible, which is difficult in the food industry because that doesn't always kind of, as
It
you
is
know.
tricky, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't always come out that way because the technology is just not there to support that as such yet. It's on the way.
Mm-hmm.
But we wanted to provide the corporate industry a gifting service that was full of product that actually tasted good, that did good, that supported small batch producers and people who were passionate about food, as I was at that time, or I still am.
You still are pretty passionate about food, I would
yeah,
say.
Yeah, foodie.
So hampers, they're a thing. Like, people give hampers, but often those hampers are filled with things which are like you say, samples, stuff like that. They're maybe not the real product, but also it's really challenging to do this stuff and also make it sustainable because of food packaging, which is tricky because in order to meet standards and those sort of things, it also has to not fall apart while it's on the shelf.
Has to have a relatively long life to a degree, or be so delicious that it gets consumed straight away.
Very quickly. Which is why our coffee goes out in like tissue paper because it's consumed so quickly.
That's right, exactly.
It doesn't matter. It's going to
3 days. People don't
lucky.
sleep for 3 days after that, but
just for the record, it doesn't. But so anyway, we met in COVID, which was kind of like the birth of Footprint.
A lot of things, yeah.
Yeah, Footprint and your Positive Feeds. So we must say, Positive Feeds sits under the umbrella of Footprint Group events, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm an event manager by trade.
Yes.
And I would say a producer, but I'm not really. I'm an event manager.
Yeah.
And during COVID,
by default, unemployed.
Events didn't happen. So it was find something else or wait it out. And I tried to wait it out for a very short period of time. Being a little bit on the neurodiverse scale, that was not possible for me to sit still very quickly for a long period. But at the same time, I needed something to do, and I realised very quickly that this wasn't going to end very quickly. So we need something to fill our time and not hold it out. Because note during COVID that the events industry as a whole did not get paid by any state government relief at all. So it was, find something to pay yourself, otherwise you're not going to survive.
It was one of those industries that sort of it
no
didn't
support.
get looked after. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was a few of them that really suffered. Yeah,
we just fell through the cracks.
You fell through the cracks
yeah,
as well.
we did.
That's a new term. I'm going to get that on a T-shirt. I fell through the cracks. Let's rewind a little bit. You've said to me that your lessons growing up, you weren't always sustainability focused growing up, but you did tell me that influences from, say, like even your father saying you can only play the hand that you're dealt.
Mm-hmm, correct.
And how that sort of, even though maybe in your earlier years you weren't focused on, like I say, the sustainability element, that's kind of where it's come from, that sort of bubbling underneath, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I don't know why it started bothering me all of a sudden. Nothing happened as such to make me think, more sustainably minded. But certainly, and I know we've had this conversation before as well as a life lesson that, there's certain things that happen through life and you have markers that you kind of look forward to or think are things that you have to achieve.
Yep.
And when you get to a certain age, you've achieved those things. And for me, it was quite traditional in my path in regards to, your education. So what are you going to be? How are you going to get there? Are you going to go to university? Are you going to meet a partner? Are you going to get married? Are you going to buy a house? Are you going to have children? Done all that. Then what?
Yeah.
So my children they still need me, they're teenagers, but, you've done all those things. You've not necessarily got anything to work towards or look forward to as such, apart from, holidays and stuff like that. But purpose, what was my purpose past then?
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I realised that I needed to create something for myself because things started really bothering me.
Yep.
And then I was like, I can actually make change myself. I can give myself another purpose.
You said a moment ago that you don't feel like there was a particular moment in time, but you've also told me that there was this one incident or sort of a moment in time in Auckland in particular when you were doing events.
Yeah.
and it sort of was an epiphany for you
Yeah.
around the sustainability
Yeah.
side of things.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about that? Because I feel like that's important to this story.
Yeah, and I feel like there's been a couple of moments similar to that, but the one that you're speaking about is, being in an event. I travelled over to New Zealand for one of our Australian-based clients and did their awards show, and sitting there in the museum in Auckland at 2 a.m, just watching these supplies bump out, as we call it, bump in, bump out,
Yep.
which
So
is
it
at the
was
end of the
packing
event.
up.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
packing up
Moving
period.
out, yep. Which is frantic.
Yeah, frantic. Because what happens during event processes is there's a bump in period, which is, the load in period, and you get given a finite amount of time. So generally speaking, it's like 4 hours, or you get given, it depends on the venue. They create this bump in, bump out time period that is included in the venue hire. So often it's 4 hours, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 1. So clients will pay extra to bump in. They don't mind paying the extra. If you need all day, you're like, this is the cost for all day, it's going to be an extra $1,000 or whatever it might be. Yep. They never want to invest in this bump out period, which is the close down period, the pack down period.
Yep.
So I was sitting there knowing we had an hour pack down because the client didn't approve anything extra. And what happens when you've taken all day to get in there,
Yes.
what happens to get out is everything gets thrown. It just gets thrown away. And I was watching this florist, and it was by all means not their fault at all. There was a myriad of small vases in the room with like little posies and stuff like that.
So it's an exhibition. The florist is exhibiting.
It was an awards evening. So there was cocktail tables. It was a cocktail event, not a gala dinner.
Sure.
And they had little posies, little vases of flowers everywhere. So, I mean, a lot of them. So each table had like clusters. So there'd be 4 or 5.
Yep.
So that was a lot of there. So they bumped in with a huge trolley. They had these vases of flowers on there, and bumped in, put them all in, like all time to finesse and, move things around and all that sort of stuff.
Nice, yeah.
Zhuzh, if you will.
I will.
And at the end, they literally came in with the trolley, grabbed them all, and then wrapped the whole trolley in Glad wrap.
Right.
I mean, a huge, big, tall trolley with 5 different tiers on there.
To like hold them all together.
To hold them all together, to get them through, because the pathway to get out and, find this goods lift, etc., is down the other end of the museum. The museum, has a lot of very expensive things in there. You have rules that you need to be guided by, and to get things out quickly.
Yes.
That's the choice.
That was what they had to do.
That's what they had to do. So, and then the client doesn't pay for, once they're outside in the car park, they can stay there till 3 a.m, or, at this time it was 3 a.m, 4, 5 a.m, doing whatever they needed to do, as long as they're out of there. The client doesn't pay from that point onwards.
Yes, they just had to get it out.
Hire. They get it out. So everything was just pulled apart and thrown away. Now, I have to preface that with the museum in Auckland are sustainably minded, and their waste management was fantastic, but they can only deal with what they've got. Now, the supply chain didn't know that, weren't asked along the way about how they were sustainably planned and sustainably minded in their practices. So at no time were they asked about, how do you actually get in? What do you use? What products do you use? Do you need to pallet wrap all this stuff, et cetera, et cetera? So still the venue was then loaded with, although they, composted and recycled and separated and all that sort of stuff, they were then still had this plastic that they had to deal with. They have no choice but to put it in landfill, because that's what they've been given.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was like, there has to be a better way than this. Why weren't they even, if we just asked the florist, what is your process to get in? What's your process to get out?
Yep.
What's your supply chain like? What do you use? Where do your flowers come from? Are they locally grown? Do you need access to water to fill them up on the way? Do you use florist foam? Like, what wrap do you use if you have to wrap this? Like, how are you going to get through? Just ask the question, and there is a much better alternative to that process.
And this is all, I feel like this is all coming from your experience in events.
Correct.
As an events person.
Correct.
So you've seen it all.
Yeah.
And you're seeing this as a thing. I've been to expos at Jeff's Shed or, where there are individual stands and stalls and stuff. And the pack down is chaos.
Yeah.
And there's so much rubbish.
Yeah.
Because people bring the stuff in and then it never goes back in the same way, and there's rubbish and plastic and all that sort of stuff. So it creates a massive amount of waste.
It has in the past. I have to say that is very much changing in the industry since I've started.
Yep.
I would say probably in the last 12 months things are changing. So companies are very much thinking about reuse of a lot of things, especially when you go into Jeff's Shed. They are incredibly sustainably minded.
Oh, good.
Really, like one of the leaders in the industry, I would say, from a venue perspective, because they're government funded. So their purpose, and they give a good brief to anybody that is holding events and what they need, the guidelines that they need to abide by.
Yep.
So a lot of people are going in there, certainly from an exhibition perspective, they're going in there now with the mindset of how do we reuse this in the best possible way. And there's suppliers that will always do that, that I also use, that think along those sorts of lines as well, as how do we rethink this? How do we get the longevity out of the product? Where can we store it year to year? How do we make it look different every year, but actually we're still using the same set?
Using the same stuff, yeah. So that moment in Auckland was kind of what got you going, wasn't it? You sort of said, I want to do something.
Oh, look, I had been trying to make changes in the roles that I had for the last few years, even from an office perspective. Can we please look at organic waste? Can we please use the footprint that we've got at our various venues and look at some sort of, especially when you work with kitchens, can we look at gardens or, something like that we can kind of start producing our own rooftop gardens, or can we look at, rooftop honey or something like that, and then in the office, it's not a matter of just separating your paper. That's all we had was paper, and obviously Officeworks had done a little bits and pieces, and Visi we had in there and stuff, but it was really only recycling paper and then waste. And it just fell on deaf ears. I couldn't get any of my bosses to listen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine once, organisations, once they sort of get set in their ways, I guess, and things are working and operating, it's difficult to make that change, isn't it?
And very much now that I have my own business, obviously you understand that things come down to budget as well.
Yes.
So it's nice having these ideas, but at the same time, the systems aren't in place. It's expensive to put them in, to make these changes. If you don't have the profit margins in it, then why do you do it? That's what the thought process has been up until now.
Yeah.
Things are changing, and certainly people are starting to invest in what they can't see necessarily. But yeah, at the time it was like, no, because it's too hard. We don't have the budget for that. The systems aren't in place. Certainly, also at this time, a lot of the time it was before Sally Cap in the city when I was working in the city. So often it was before Sally Cap and her role in becoming, Melbourne becoming a more sustainable economy. So the systems just didn't exist as far as, waste management and picking up from those venues. So wasn't necessarily deaf ears the only reason why.
Yeah.
It was that if we do this, it's going to get commingled anyway at the time. That was the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I've also been to a lot of big events where people will want to put on the best party. They want to put the best show and the best party on, and that often involves spending big on trinkets and bits and pieces and stuff like that, which ultimately that's not great either, right?
No, aesthetics is a minefield. You can still do that. You just have to make smarter choices and understand and be educated in what alternatives there are. As I said, I work with creative companies that operate sustainably, but they don't necessarily advertise themselves like I do as being purely sustainable in their approach. They just happen to be.
Right.
So you can still build a great party, but just use supply chain that is, not necessarily disposable.
Yeah, okay. And also maybe renting things.
Yeah, totally.
Instead of buying for that one-off thing and then having to throw it away.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are people that custom build a lot of things. And I have to say, although that can still happen sustainably, because there's another builder that I have worked with and had the pleasure to work with who's one of Australia's best set builders. they take everything apart and they reuse it as much as they possibly can until it falls apart.
Okay.
It is not a matter of taking it apart and throwing it in a skip, which happens a lot.
Yep.
Or they leave it at the venue or those sorts of things.
Well, sometimes the spend is based on the building of the thing.
And it is. Labour in this country is crazy regardless of the industry. So
but
it is going to be expensive.
It's often not so much about, like, once you've got it and you've done the event, that's the cost of the event. And then afterwards it's, you know.
Well, it's storage after that.
Yeah,
it's
that's
still,
right.
There's still a cost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's an ongoing cost and that does need to be paid for in a way.
Yeah.
So the cost is still there. It's just different. It's broken up differently because you still have to...
I guess it would encourage why someone be happy to throw stuff out.
Correct. Yeah, there is that.
Because then you don't have to pay for the storage.
And then it's not their cost
Yeah.
because the venue will pay for that to be disposed of.
Yep.
I mean, I think a lot of venues will be like, that can't go in a rubbish, you need to take that with you. But there are juggernauts that have huge, big venues that have their own waste disposal and are massive in their loading bays and stuff like that. It just happens.
Yeah.
People leave stuff behind, the venue has to dispose
deal
of
with
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is bubbling away, this idea. You've started thinking about creating your own business, right?
Yeah.
But then you told me you got what you probably thought at the time was your dream job.
Yep. So I had come to the end of a contract at an agency. I was covering mat leave at the time. And
An events.
Yeah, yep. I was actually a BDM, so business development, and ended up not doing that at all and going straight into producer land, which is not what I do. But, sort of new experiences and what have you. So that was a new thing. I came to the end of that contract and decided to apply for a role that I saw, and my boss at the time knew the person who was starting the company. So that was Luke Stone, Curtis Stone's brother.
The chef, Curtis Stone.
Yep, Curtis Stone. The Coles guy, as he's known in Australia.
Yeah, he is now. Yeah.
People didn't know who he was, honestly. He's so well known in America. He was the one that said, do you want to do this? Because no one knows me in Australia. He's from Essendon Grammar.
Right.
He went to school here, grew up here. His dad lives in Woodend. Like, they are Melbourne people.
Yeah, okay.
He's not known here at all, and he was very right. But at the same time, so they decided to start what was successful in LA and bring it to Melbourne and start Curtis Stone events. So
Okay.
they were decided to do that. So Curtis's best friend, Chris Sheldon, was director of food and beverage at Crown. Then it was Luke Stone, his brother, who's part owner of Gwen and a couple of his other restaurants in LA. And then it was Curtis and myself. So
Yeah, right.
I
Small
applied
team.
for this.
Yep.
Yeah, applied for this role. Got this role, started this company. It was literally myself and Chris in a borrowed office at the time. It was a company that didn't exist, obviously, in Melbourne. It was something I'd never done before. I was director of sales was my official title, which was unexpected at the time. But, so it was starting from the ground, and it actually gave me a really good foundation to then, sort of do what I ended up doing. So we ended up designing the website. I designed the website, came up with systems. We were hiring staff. We were coming up with a system to hire because they literally had nothing here.
Sure.
They had to hire chefs, executive chefs, and, literally it was from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So that was a baptism of fire, starting a company which is now a very big company and a
Yes.
very successful company. They've done really well. But
Done well, yeah. But then what happened? Because I'm going to put a little timestamp on that, and that was starting to happen in 2019.
no, that was so I finished my contract in November 2019 and went on Christmas break, and I got my role on the 23rd of December that year.
You were offered that role.
And started on the 13th of January
There you
in
go.
2020.
Okay. And so what happened then? And, the cluey amongst us already know.
Yep. I would say I started on the 13th of January and baptism of fire for 8 weeks.
Yes.
And then the 17th of March. Can you tell that this is still very
Still raw.
Very raw.
Yes.
I just basically said I don't want to get on the train anymore. And that was the day it all shut down. So that we were all told to go home.
Yep.
Because the rule was at the time that the government was going to fund any business that had a 30% downturn in their income. So being a new company who wasn't at the point of earning a thing.
Hadn't had upturn, let alone downturn.
No. We had our launch dinner. That was it. That was the only thing that we had done. Had our launch dinner, and as soon as Chris walked into the office, I saw the look on his face, and it was just despair. And I now know from going through, very similar things, how that must have felt for them at the time. So
it's shattering. Isn't
I was an expense really at the time, and that's what he had to look at it as. Although we were making great grounds, and we'd set this stuff up and that sort of thing. The only thing that wasn't costing was the people who owned the company, which was the other three of them. So I was like, completely understand, do what you need to do, and literally handed my computer back. And walked out.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It really sucks, and it's a similar story. It resonates with me myself, but yes, that's just such a crappy situation because it was all looking to be on the up. Everything was looking good. You thought it was going to be your
dream.
Yeah, your dream job.
Dream job.
So there you are. You're jobless. It's COVID.
Yeah.
And you thought, what am I going to do with my time?
Yeah. Do you know what I did that afternoon?
What did you do?
Went home, put my loan on hold immediately.
Oh.
Went, rang the bank. Yep. Spoke to the bank, put my loan on hold, went and signed up to DoorDash.
Right.
That's what I did that afternoon.
To be a delivery driver?
Yep.
DoorDash?
Yeah.
Did you get any jobs? I didn't know this bit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I did. Doesn't earn very much at all.
Right.
And drivers will be able to tell you, like I did DoorDash for maybe weeks. There was a couple of things you may not know about this.
Really?
But I was literally like, you'd get a job and it'd be like, okay, someone wants what's the one in the shopping centre, the bubble tea place that's downstairs. Anyway, someone wanted a bubble tea and I was near High Point. And they went, yeah, so you get this notification, just go to this place. Is it Gongcha? That's what it was.
Right.
Go this location. It's just on this. They only give you a street address. I went, oh, yeah, I'll accept that job. It was delivering to North Melbourne.
Oh.
So stupid. Park it where I could
At
in
High
High
Point.
Point.
Right.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
Because only certain shops are open, obviously being, food stores could open. So go in with my mask. Right down the other end of High Point. Takes me like
It's a 2K walk.
20 minutes.
Got your steps up.
I know. Yeah, exactly. 20 minutes to find it.
Yeah.
I was like talking to the person who's ordering, going, I can't find it. I don't know. And they're like, I don't know where it is. It's just the version of the app has limitations.
Yeah.
Got the bubble tea, come out. It's 20 minutes later. Totally not worth my time. Trying to find this house in North Melbourne, deliver it. I get $9 for about an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe it took me. That was another epiphany. This is not worth it.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't call that great money.
No.
That's about what, $6 an hour?
Yeah. It was not great money.
I think that's a little below the minimum.
Yeah.
For an adult.
And the thing is, I'm leaving my kids at home. I'm like,
Yep.
There was no other money coming in. Because I didn't get stood down, I got let go. I didn't get job keeper.
Yes.
I got job seeker, which was half the cost. So anyone that lost their job didn't get financial support, right? So I didn't get anything from my job. Obviously, I was let go. It was a really shitty system. It was a terrible system that was not means assessed. People either lost a great deal of money during that time or made a great deal of money during that time. And it was just... So really, I understand decisions had to be made really quickly, and it was very much a blanket approach.
Yep.
But that just was terrible. So I was thinking, I'm not going to survive. And my husband also lost his role at the same time.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're jobless.
Yeah.
And fidgety.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, do you know what I can do though? I can bake.
Yeah, I love baking.
So
Baking's my thing.
There's a point in time here where you decided to start baking stuff And that turned into a little initiative, which was called Out of Work Bakers.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us the overarching story around Out of Work Bakers, which is effectively when we connected?
Yeah, that's right. I actually don't even know how or why I started doing it. Trying to think through the kind of memories of that time and who I was talking to and who I met and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, buried very deep. So yeah, I started baking and I started a Facebook group. People started joining. I was putting it out on other local Facebook groups to try and advertise it.
Yep.
So basically just started baking and selling like a bakery, like slices of, as you say, the brownies, the half kilo sugar brownies, and the cinnamon scrolls, which I could pump out pretty quickly, not having to let them rise or anything like that. So the premise was I would bake, put it out on the Facebook page, put it out on my front deck on a table, and then put like an honesty box out there so none of it was front facing. I didn't have to see anyone, or we weren't supposed to be doing anything apart
contactless,
from the 5K thing. So I put it out. People would be like, sold 2 pieces, sold 6 pieces, sold whatever. So they were buying things and dropping them off at friends, and it's really community focused time.
Yeah.
I then opened that up to other people who were cafes were closing down, chefs were out of work. I come from hospitality background. That's my entry into event management.
Yep.
So a lot of my friends are from that area, and a lot of the conversation is all from that comes from that perspective. So I met other people who just weren't able to kind of make ends meet. I started meeting other chefs in the area, and the cafes and chefs and all that sort of stuff that were. I gave them admin rights to the page, and whatever they wanted to make, they could then advertise on their own front porches. Come and pick this up from this location via DMs and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I called it Out of Work Bakers, and that was a collective of people who were out of work, and they weren't necessarily bakers by trade, but it was certainly people who could make stuff that people wanted to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so people were getting the opportunity to buy delicious treats. With a contactless pickup or delivery or whatever, and it gave people a little bit of income.
Well, yeah, and it was just something to do, again, it's purpose.
Gave you some purpose.
Yeah, something like, how do you get through each day when you don't have work, there's no opportunity for work, apart from if you leave your industry, which happened to our industry, certainly. People just left.
Well, there was no reason to hang around.
That's right. It's like, how long is this going to happen? And it happened for a long time.
Yeah. And not only that, it went in and out. So how many events got reorganised and cancelled, reorganised and cancelled?
Yeah. We had one event that I think they cancelled it 4 times. So we organised it. I mean, it was less and less organising as we went through, but, it was, cancelled. In the end, it didn't operate. It was actually an office opening of one of our clients, and we did it 4 times, and then went, we're 2 years down the track now, your office is actually open. Yeah. So let's just not do this.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
I had a rock concert that I had tickets for that just pushed out so many times. Yeah. It was like years later I went to that concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually 2 of them. And they ended up being years later.
Yeah.
Those things aside, I got my rock concert, which is, probably lucky because a lot of those things just never ran. And there would have been
that's right.
People tied up financially in these things.
And also scheduling. So with things like that and events, they schedule so far in advance that they, do world tours, and there's a huge amount of organisation that comes around about that.
All the logistics.
Oh, so it's not just a matter of just coming back 6 months later. Yeah. It's like, let's do the world tour first and then work out when we can arrange to bring a heavy amount of equipment back to Australia, which is in many cases almost impossible for a lot of bands. So, the fact that they were able to kind of reschedule and put that back.
I was surprised that they could even redo it.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so Out of Work Bakers is cooking, so to speak, and you guys are serving up these delicious treats, but you had a request from someone.
Yep.
And they said, hey, can you put together something for my workplace?
Yeah, so it kind of was a conglomerate of people who were doing good things in their area through the Out of Work Bakery, knowing full well that we were doing this in an unsanctioned kitchen, commercial kitchen. So we were doing this from home, and that, is basically just not allowed. There's no permits in place. People who do bake from home have to go through quite a process to have that approved. So we weren't allowed to do it, and it was very much, we shouldn't continue to do this. I need to look for a commercial kitchen. If this is going to go forward, I need to look for a commercial kitchen. Let's start looking at places that can't operate. Let's start seeing what we can kind of push out there. So I started working with a couple of chefs that were out of work a couple of streets away.
Uh-huh.
And they'd come from the likes of Donovan's and places like that. So really,
great places.
Yeah. They're really well-established chefs. And then working with another friend who was doing some kind of essential oil-based products, candles, soaps, all that sort of stuff. So it was like get well packs for their staff that this request came from.
And they said, can you put together some stuff for my staff?
Yep.
And then you said, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Yes, I don't know how to do it. I will do it. That's very much an event
I will work
mindset.
it out on the way.
Go, yes, I'll worry about it later. How?
Yes, that's tomorrow Emma's problem.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So then that sort of started the basis of what now is Positive Feeds.
Correct. Yeah. So, you go through ideas and what will work, what won't work. At that time, the product was fresh. It was gnocchi with sauce separated and all that sort of stuff. And then we were mixing it in with candles and essential oils. That in itself was a problem. Thankfully, around Melbourne, it was an immediate delivery and didn't, the
scented gnocchi.
Yes, correct. It didn't permeate the food, but we were like, going forward, that is a problem.
Thing, yeah.
So we need to come up with a solution for that. So we've since found, solutions to the packaging and things that are keeping the temperature and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
We knew from there that we kind of had to go to shelf-stable product because then we weren't risking people's health. Nothing happened at that time, but we were like, we are playing with fire here.
Yeah.
Having food handling certification and stuff like that, I understand the problems that can happen if you're not careful.
Yes.
And it's not fair to the person receiving it to give them a horrible stomach.
Unhealthy food.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. So I started looking at shelf-stable products. So I put a note out on what is in the Inner West, a very famous Facebook page of buying and selling.
Yes.
So I put a note out on that asking which supply chain, like who does food product in our area. And the response was surprising. Like the amount of people that produce in this area, I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
And knowing full well from guests that you've had on previously,
Yes.
a lot of them are purpose-led or sustainably minded or just, raising money for different organisations. And that kind of came as along the way as a how nice is that?
Yeah, a bit of icing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we found out that literally within our 5Ks, we ended up having over 50 suppliers from the Inner West that were producing food and beverage options.
And also suppliers that you then started to incorporate the sustainability side, right?
Yeah.
So what was your criteria, I guess, with the...
See, we had to be malleable in that area. I had to understand the limitations of what could be done.
Yes.
So our boxes are still made in Melbourne. They're actually from a company in Sunshine. So it started with the 5K. What can we do within our 5K that we can legally go and, pick things up or have delivered? And, a lot of it was down the road from my house.
Yep.
But that we chose that box supplier after actually scouting around Australia and getting 9 different suppliers with their samples and then getting this one from Sunshine and it being the best anyway for our needs. And it just happened to be down the road. So it just worked. We were trying to support community as much as we could, and community is still an absolute focus of what we do in everything that we do, from an events perspective as well as Positive Feeds service. And so, choosing someone within our community always took focus above everything else. We absolutely still taste everything that comes through. So we ask for samples, we taste it, make sure that it's going to be something that people open up their cupboard and, sort of remind them of the person that had gifted them or, that it is a delicious side to whatever they're doing. And it's not just something they pop in their mouth and go, that's not nice. So we only chose stuff that was really good and and didn't just happen to fill a box in regards to packaging, size, colour, which a lot of hamper suppliers do.
Yeah. They're going for aesthetic.
Yeah, totally.
Looks pretty because it's a gift.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a gift.
Yeah.
So that's another big challenge is if something's a gift, it's got to look nice. But also then if you add the sustainability part, then it gets really hard.
Oh, absolutely. It gets hard. It gets really hard because I have struggled with that so much because you've, and my colleagues will be able to attest to this, over the time I have repacked and taken it apart and repacked because the unboxing of it is a consideration, but it cannot be the be all and end all because at the end of the day, that finishes after a couple of minutes.
Yes.
And then you throw that packaging out. So that was that. You just had to choose your path, really. Is it going to be the unboxing? Is it going to be, the product within it? And the unboxing can be a lot of waste of budget.
Yep.
So when you get really good packaging and really pretty boxes and you open up and there's not much in there or it's really expensive to buy stuff with the good packaging and the stuff in it, we just went down a different path. And we were like, you know what? The unboxing, the messaging needs to be there, but the feeling that you get when you open it takes precedence over the pretty colour of everything within it.
Yeah. So the knowing that what you're buying is actually also...
Oh, it's supporting a myriad of people and a myriad of communities and
good local businesses who are
Correct.
trying to do good things in the world. So that's ended up connecting you with, like you say, a lot of the guests that I've had on this show. So we've got Phoebe from Living Cocoa.
Yeah.
She does amazing things.
Yeah.
Who else did you have? Jess McDonald.
Yeah.
Our good friend Jess McDonald, who gets a mention somehow nearly every episode. We've got
She's a busy girl.
Write the World Notebooks,
Yep.
episode 1
Kate
of the
Tapping.
podcast,
Yep.
who's doing amazing things. He's raised 120 grand or something
Crazy.
like now.
Yeah.
I've heard she's just got a new range out as
Yeah,
well. So,
she does.
she's cooking. We've got even Matt Donovan. Food for Change.
Yep.
So, and of course, us, we've worked with you as well, all connected to that same hampers
Correct.
idea to get them out to to give corporate buyers something to buy that wasn't just trashing the earth.
That's right.
In essence, right?
In a very simplistic manner, yeah. Just having, it was very much about, I think people's focus shifted over COVID as well to find a different thing that was important. So, we all saw change in the environment over that time, creek beds that were clear and the beach was amazing and the environment just had a chance to reset, rest and reset. And this happened, so people's focus, I think, in that sort of way of thinking changed and they knew that different people needed support and I think during that time the focus just altered a little bit in regards to what was important. And then, social enterprise, there was a lot of purpose-led organisations that were born over that time.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be something now that, all of a sudden there was ESG levels and people were talking about, the UN 17 points of sustainability and all sorts of things that they're actively seeking this sort of response now to gifting in my area at least. We started getting more and more and more requests of things that were not so much budget driven and things always are. Absolutely. There's always a budget applied to these, but that they had to have some sort of purpose to, sort of the inclusions in it.
Yeah. Okay. And then that landscape has also been a little challenging because you've got going in and out of lockdowns.
Yeah.
So where the business was built sort of with a in lockdown sort of a feel, and then we come out, and then hampers slow a little bit because people went back to work for a while.
People were over having things delivered, like as in gifting. They don't want to have stuff gifted anymore.
Yeah.
You buy how many subscriptions and how many gifts do you send out? Because that's all you could do. There was no shops open. You could only buy online.
Yep.
So then there was very much like, we do not want to touch a hamper again for quite some time.
Yep.
We want to do in person now as a celebration or any, those sorts of things.
Yes.
So we always knew that there was going to be a shift in regards to hampers, and then events, and that shift happened very quickly once we were open again.
Yeah.
Out
And
of
then
lockdown.
closed again and then opened again.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we've established that sustainability is hard. The other part is, when you get a gift or when you get something, and how do you dispose of the waste? It's not even just gifts. It's our everyday. And I know that you're a bit of a warrior as far as recycling and those things are concerned. And we've talked about how hard it is if you're going to do recycling properly and if you're going to, do your best that you can do. It's actually really challenging, isn't it?
Oh, my God. Even choosing packaging for that particular purpose that was, sustainable as such, it's not if you don't dispose of it properly.
If it doesn't follow through the
Well,
right...
this is the thing, because the systems are it's only as good as the systems can provide you, right? Yeah. So we use paper shred that is either recycled or repurposed or whatever, and it's knowing the fundamentals of that. So you can't use tissue paper. So we stopped using tissue paper because it can't be recycled. It can be composted,
yes,
but you can't recycle tissue paper.
Okay.
It comes down to the inks that things are printed with. It has to be soy-based ink because, those are petroleum-based or they're just not sustainable. So you have to be careful with your ink choices.
Yeah.
The paper shred cannot be recycled unless it is bound together in another piece of paper and then tightly scrunched. Because it gets stuck in the machinery.
Right.
It's too light. The way that the sorting machines work, they just can't, they're too small, too light, and it doesn't work that way. So it needs to be big enough for things to be picked up as a certain material. And the same with, we use cardboard chips as well, which is part of the circular economy that we use. So we use our packing cardboard, send it back to the manufacturer who we buy these cardboard chips from, and they rechip our cardboard that we've had things back. So we buy it from them again.
Okay.
So they go through the process of chipping it, we buy it back again. So, but those cardboard chips, again, you can only compost them because they're too small to fit into recycling. So you need to put it in something that's bigger. And you don't know this until you know it.
No, and we've gotten very good with the way we've built our communities. We've gotten very good at putting things in a bin and the bin goes away.
Yeah.
And it's emptied and that's the process. As far as most people are concerned, once it goes into a bin, that's it.
And this is the thing. So professionally, we all have our professions, right? So we're all good at something. Waste management's not what people are tooled to know much about.
No.
And there is a service for that, and they expect that service to be carried out. Now, that service is complex, and it's only as good as the technology that's available, and every council or every waste disposal is attached to a supply chain that has different technology. So if you live in, sort of Maribyrnong, it's different to Hobson's Bay, it's different to, Wyndham, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
It's just not the same. So and then every time you go somewhere, their waste disposal will be completely different again.
Yes.
So it's just a lack of education, and we do pick the lid up and chuck in whatever we think is the best way to dispose of it, which is a problem.
Well, again, you don't see what happens to it after it leaves.
No, wish cycling is a big thing.
So what do you call it? Wish cycling?
Wish cycling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's, again, touching on, I have mentioned it a couple of times in this podcast, but the red cycle thing, people doing what they thought was the right thing by giving the soft plastics to red cycle, but showing that when the other end of it falls over, what can happen, and effectively, what can happen is it just turns into landfill.
Correct.
Because the whole system hasn't continued through.
Yeah.
So, again, I think that's something else. We don't see the impact of our waste choices.
No.
So, therefore, we don't know what happens. And so it's very easy to just not care.
Yeah. And the thing is, as we've spoken about before, we hope that things are happening in a certain way, but when we don't know the whole story, we can't make the right choices. And we need to start getting uncomfortable again. So the problem that we've had is that convenience has got us to where we are, and we need to get inconvenient again. So you need to, although it's fantastic that we've got your supermarkets, your large chain supermarkets, they're just not going to, they are convenience. They're everywhere. They're really close to our homes, all that sort of stuff. But And now, thankfully, they're coming on board with being more sustainably minded, but it's a long way to go.
Yeah.
And we are just grabbing whatever's most convenient. We need to go back to shopping, ideally at separate small businesses again, and, taking things home in boxes and avoiding the plastic to begin with that things come in, and trying to buy things in bulk. And that, it's inconvenient. It's really inconvenient.
Yeah.
But it's, at this point in time, avoiding is the only way until the technology catches up.
Yeah. And I think we'd think about it really differently if the rubbish that you use, you had to, like in your backyard, you had to deal with it yourself.
Yeah.
I think you'd start to think of things very differently if you had to personally deal with the waste as well.
I think you have a different lens when you start understanding and knowing how much you don't know, and also the effect that you are having by purchasing things wrapped in plastic. It's convenient, but boy, oh boy, does that have a massive effect on stuff that is not necessarily directly attached to you.
Yeah.
The sea life and you walk down the street and there's just trash and rubbish.
Just rubbish everywhere. Yeah.
So dumping and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, if we had to deal with everything in our backyard, and there's definitely a way that you can do that to an extent, and reusing and repurposing and seeing the value in rubbish.
Yes.
Is like you just think differently, and you, as I said, you have it with a different lens.
Yeah. I have a propensity to know that there's value in something but not actually have a job for it.
Oh, yeah. Look, honestly, you become a hoarder. I am a massive hoarder. You're a wood hoarder. I am a...
This is still good.
That's right.
Can't throw this out.
I can make something out of that.
Yeah.
Well, your podcast studio is
all made out of, that's right. Didn't put a dent in it, in the supply though.
No, that's exactly right. Exactly. Wood's one of the biggest problems that we've got in the world at the moment, the lack of it. Building materials. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Andy. Global warming is
I'm
because
storing
of you.
carbon.
You are.
I should be paid for this.
Yeah. Just share it.
So you have taken these ideas and concepts, and now obviously footprint group events, events companies. So you do events and things. So you run events. You've got your hampers under the umbrella of the Positive Feeds, but you're bringing that sustainability side of things through to both your events and the now new offering, which is the subscription service that you're offering to organisations, so that they can not have to do it and you can do it well.
It's more so that either people don't have jobs or they're incredibly overwhelmed by their job a lot of the time.
Yes.
So, if event management is traditionally seen as a very specific set of skills.
Yeah.
And you have often needed a resource for that. What we're suggesting is that events can still operate for the times that you need it. It may not be all the time throughout the year, but the times that you might need it for a couple of events through the year, we can offer that service externally. But if you want your in-house team to still operate it, so often it falls in the lap of EAs or marketing teams that are asked to, here you go, can you organise this training program or launch our new product or celebrate the partnership between, the new companies or whatever it might be. And they don't have the knowledge, skill base, black book, all of that sort of stuff to be able to do that effectively and quickly without it affecting their actual roles.
Yeah, their actual jobs, yeah.
So what we're offering is to have this very basic requirement of sort of, 10 hours a month to be able to sign up to this subscription where we will always be on the end of a call. Now, you can get us to look at quotes or ask us, sort of for contacts or ask us questions about, risk analysis or assessments, because we are also connected to a huge amount of expert supply chain who we can call and ask for advice. So if we don't know, we'll find out the answer for you. And then that, is just because of all the years of connections that we have.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we offer clients who don't have the budget to be able to have the resource in-house.
Well, because I've worked in plenty of places where the Christmas party comes or whatever and someone has to organise it.
Yep.
And you don't know what you're doing, so you throw stuff together and you just pick the easiest, fastest, cheapest, whatever you got to do just to get it done. And so that turns into bad choices, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
As well.
It affects the experience.
Yeah. And then you might end up just buying stuff, spending money for the sake of spending money.
Yep.
Which I know is not something that you're a big fan of.
No.
So I think it's a great idea because it means that, and I just have to say this, Susan from accounts can get back to accounts instead of having to organise
So true.
the Christmas party.
That's
Sorry
right.
if you're called Susan and you're
That's better than Karen.
But I mean, that's just to show the separation between. Often the person who's organising it has no connection to any.
Yeah, I mean, look, anyone can call any venue and ask for their packages, but they don't know what they're looking at a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Or they don't know how to fix. So they can ask for a menu, they can select things that they love, which is a really bad way to choose event food catering.
What you like.
Yeah, exactly, which happens a lot. But it's mostly how it affects the running of your event. So it's just having that knowledge and experience of past events that don't do that. Or when are you going to have your welcome speech? When is the CEO, the GM going to be having a welcome speech? Let's halt the catering over that time or only serve cold canapes over that time, because if you serve hot, no one eats it, or people feel it's disrespectful to eat over the time that the CEO is having a speech. That food will go to waste because it goes cold, has to be binned. If you're serving cold canapes, that stuff can hold over. If it doesn't get taken, it goes back to the kitchen and they wait and they put it out again at a more appropriate time. So it's having that sort of level of knowledge.
Yeah, which can save on waste.
Correct.
And then, of course, the setup and the cleanup, because you've got ideas around how to do that so that people aren't just wasting stuff, going again to back to the rental side of things, or if you don't know what you're doing, you just buy it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
chuck it away at the end.
We've got the best supplier in Spotswood called the Prop Store, and it is a huge warehouse for the film and events industry that no one knows about. It's a massive place, and it's just full of vintage product or stuff from movie sets or things that you can go in and hire a teacup if you wanted to.
Right.
I'll take you down there sometime.
Yeah, I feel like I need to go there now.
Awesome.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just by the Spotty Hotel, so we'll just take a little detour past that place along the way.
On the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just, it's all education.
Yes.
So you can go in there
sorry to interrupt, but I think the old Spotswood Hotel was quite an education as well, just for those who know what I'm talking about, black windows. Anyway, carry on.
Carry on. Bit of local knowledge.
I've been told.
Yeah, but no one knows about that sort of stuff. And people in the industry don't know about that sort of stuff because generally they've come from the film industry. I can't even remember how I met her, but it is all local connection. And when you go there for the first time, it's like, oh my God, why don't people hire this? Like, they do all the experiential stuff for Crown. They do all of the Crown setups in all the gaming rooms, and every time you walk past Crown for, Lunar New Year or anything like that, it's all been done by the Prop Store, which is just down the road. Yeah. So it's just having that level of who's around, what do they do, what is their supply chain like themselves? Yep. What's their delivery schedule like? It's all that local knowledge. And having that will just save people so much time.
Same time, and they can get back and do the job they're supposed to be doing.
Accounts.
Yeah, it's in this case, Susan from accounts. Yeah. Exactly. So using the expertise to deliver, but I really do like the side that through doing that, you're able to do a whole lot better for the environment as well through the sustainability and the
save people's budget as well. You know, like you've just said about spending money for money's sake.
Yep.
When you come from an area that you do, which knows how many meals can be provided by having a certain amount of funds, that sticks with you. Helping people along the way just to make ends meet, to not spend thousands of dollars on a balloon garland, which is I use that as an example because it's a terrible choice that we've all kind of gotten into on a local domestic level for parties and stuff like that. It's just finding an alternative to that. If you understand where dollars can go and how far it can stretch and how many people it can help, you just think differently. You look at a budget and you go, I can get that down, and then I can have this extra portion to affect people in a positive way.
Yeah, I think it's really great. Talking about affecting people in a positive way, you have also had some interactions with reaching out in the inner west.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to quickly tell us about that as well?
Again, probably during COVID, I think the need, I was just seeing this local grassroots organisation that was just run by people with really good hearts, that they were connecting food waste, or what was being traditionally thrown away due to red tape out the back door of supermarkets in, bins and dumpsters and all that sort of stuff, and rescuing that food and then connecting it with people who just had no option but to ask for help.
Yep.
And we've seen that a couple of times in the West through flooding and other things, international students during COVID and stuff like that. So the need for an organisation such as Reaching Out, which connects people with that, not only grocery items, but they have a team of voluntary cooks who take that product once a week and go and cook in their own home en masse, vegetarian products. They don't deal with meat. But they also go around, when they do get meat products, they go around to different organisations and deliver these to, housing commissions and things like that.
Yeah.
So the need at the moment, especially with the cost of living, is just so great.
Yes.
So on a Monday every week, they bring together all the donated grocery items or rescued food, and then also the meals that have been packaged from their voluntary cooks. And in the mall on a Monday night, they hand food out.
Yeah.
So we became aware of that particular group, who have now become a registered charity, and we decided to donate part of our profits when we had it to using the money whenever, however they decide that it best be used. So
right.
It could be different product that they needed at the time. We need a heap of milk, we need a heap of eggs, we just need the money, whatever it might be. We also, at the end of our events, if we ever have a appropriate donation, we will then deliver it to their storage as well for them to hand out on a Monday night.
As an item, a
Correct.
donated item.
Correct. If we have stuff that is not going to be used at our events, and often it is not catering as such, it will be the groceries. If we do have anything left over that hasn't been used, we will send that on to them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And they are they are doing amazing things. Their need is growing week on week.
The queues are around the block.
And if I can ever convince Rhonda Baroudi to come in and have a chat to me, she'll tell you all about it, because that's from when they started to compared to what it is now, it's massive. So
Massive.
Yeah, and these are regular people who just need a hand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Victoria University has kindly donated part of their facilities to their storage.
Oh, good.
So, and then during the time, remember that time, I think it was at the end of COVID, where there was that refrigeration giveaway or...
Oh, the fridges.
Yeah. And either you didn't get one or you got 6 because...
Everyone got one.
I
They were
didn't get
giving
one.
them out on the
I didn't
street.
get one. Yeah, exactly.
I
I bought one since of someone else.
was at a chicken shop, and I'm out the front, and these two guys delivering fridges are saying, "Do you need a fridge?" And I'm going, I'm here for chicken. I don't know. I want my chicken
needs
hot.
to go somewhere.
No, it doesn't. It's going to go straight in my mouth. It's not going to need a fridge. Those fridges were...
Yeah, so thankfully they got some of those. So their storage facility, they're able to now refrigerate outside of their homes and take these donations to a much larger kind of storage and sorting facility within Victoria University.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad that they're able to... I'm not going to say commercialise, but I'm glad they're able to
Scale
a little bit. Yeah,
and have that separation from their personal lives to a degree. Rhonda still absolutely works 7 days a week with her partner Ron, and they don't have that exact work-life balance as such, but she's so committed, or they are so committed to the purpose that they just work all the time because they can't not.
Yes. Now, I want to, before we wrap, because I think it's important to mention that your Positive Feeds, actually you can correct me here, but Positive Feeds has been nominated for a couple of awards now.
Yes, we have been nominated for, what was last time? It's a biannual event. Mm-hmm. We've been nominated for Best New Business.
Okay.
And then Pivot, I think. hang on, sorry. It was pivoted business, I think. God, it was 2 years ago. It's like I blocked it from my memory.
It's a while ago, yeah.
And then also sustainability. And then the awards have changed slightly outside of COVID. There's now more awards, but the award has been a little bit more specified. And this year it is Sustainability and Circular Economy Excellence.
That's what you've been nominated for this year.
Yeah.
And when's the awards for that?
That's a good question. October sometime. Okay. End of October.
End of October.
Yeah.
Okay, so by the time people hear this episode, that won't have happened yet, I don't think. So good luck.
Thank you.
I can't say congratulations because I don't know what happened.
Look, I have to say, this always gets said, all the nominees are excellent. I'm honoured to be.
And they usually are.
Yeah, they're all worthy. They're definitely all worthy. And what I love about this is that it amplifies small business, and you actually go and check out these other small businesses and understand how you can work with them and how you can celebrate what they're trying to achieve as well. Because it's such a community. Communities are local, communities are industry focused, communities can be a lot of different things. Yep. So from an industry perspective, we celebrate sustainability, but from a local perspective, those businesses are doing great things.
Yeah. And a variety of different businesses.
Totally.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. What's coming up in the future? Is there anything on the cards in the immediate future?
We have a diverse range of clients. They're generally, because of what we do, we attract a certain level of clients, and generally they're purpose-led. So we are working with one of our clients on the process and journey to treaty with the Victorian State Government. So we work regularly with those guys and love and are honoured to do so. They're a best client ever, and they're just beautiful to work with.
Yeah.
We also work with another client for Midsummer Festival, which is fantastic. So again, community based.
Yep.
Just a different community. And
you got the food ones? You do. What's the little kids food festival that you do?
Festival. So we work with the Sandro De Mayo Foundation. So he's the CEO of Vic Health. So he works towards food sovereignty and trying to teach kids the purpose of, or the journey of, healthy body and healthy planet. So, exercise and eating well, and also preparing themselves for choosing a better way to obtain food themselves, growing it themselves, recycling. Using local rather than relying on the big supermarkets, that sort of thing. Waste. So what happens is we teach the kids the lesson, and then they take it home and teach their parents.
Oh, nice.
So we teach up. The education is up, and parents do end up giving in because they can't stand their kids nagging. That happens all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's a really great way to teach kids and the next generation. So that happens every April during the school holidays at Fed Square.
Yep.
It's a free event. It's heavily subsidised and supported by the City of Melbourne.
Okay.
But it's also the Monash University. So they make sure that the lessons are being taught well from an education perspective. And then we have partners like Bunnings, Oz Harvest. Who else? We have Costa. From Gardening Australia, who's our host, as well as a fruit nerd who's the most amazing advocate for fruit and veggies.
Yeah, I bet he is.
It's a beautiful event to work on. We absolutely adore it.
Yeah, that's great. Good on you. So I want to make sure I mention for the audio listeners here that the websites, so Positive Feeds, where you can find all about the Positive Feeds part, is positivefeeds.com.au.
Correct.
And then you've got your Footprint Group Events page, which is footprintgroupevents.com.au.
Yes.
And between the two, you should be able to find everything you need.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're each mentioned on the other website anyway, so you'll never get lost.
Find your way through. So that's fantastic. Looking at you, corporates, if you you want to run events and you want to run them well and sustainably, then these are the guys that you need to talk to. And also, thinking about the gifting and the hampers and that sort of thing. So check that out as well. They are great hampers. I've both received and given these hampers before, and of course sometimes if you pick well, there's great coffee in there. Some of the best coffee you'll ever get.
So true.
Yes. So Emma MacGregor, thank you so much for coming on the Good People podcast.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed our conversation. It's nice to finally do this with you because, I feel like your story has similar date stamps to mine as far as the COVID trials and the ups and the downs and the ins and the outs of work.
Yeah.
So, in effect, we've both gone on a very similar journey in many ways. So it's been lovely to connect with you and to work with you on your great projects.
Thank you, Andy. It's an absolute pleasure for me too.
Well, I'm going to wrap it there. And Emma MacGregor, Footprint Group Events and Positive Feeds, thank you so much for coming on the Good People Podcast. This has been the Good People Podcast. My name is Andy, all recorded here in the In Other Good News studios. If you like what you're hearing, please like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching it. If you're listening, you can download the episodes. That helps us so much. Also, please, the biggest thing you can do for us is if you like what you're hearing, tell your friends. Tell your friends all about it because that helps us reach the world and share these good messages. So thank you for tuning in to the Good People Podcast, and we will catch you in the next episode.
Well, it's a tip of the cap, it's a pat on the back, it's a smile from ear to ear. They're the good people from round here. They're the good people from round here. Come on, let me introduce you to a few.